Many times as a beginning photographer, sometimes you come into a shoot either over-prepared or underprepared, trying to build confidence that you got everything under control. Meanwhile, you're pretty anxious because you're nervous that your performance could waste your time or even the team's time. And sometimes this can come from not really being confident in the work that you produce, but many times it's simply because you don't do the right prep work to have that confidence in creative decision making. If I incorporate my 3 C's, I tend to have a more easeful shoot day. The 3 C's is a workflow that I utilize for the prep work for my shoots, the actual process of my shoot, and the post-production of my shoot in order to have good clarity during that whole process. Stay tuned because these 3 C's are super impactful, especially one of them is super underrated, so stay tuned to hear all 3 options. Hey guys, my name is Olivia and I'm a fashion and portrait photographer based in Chicago, Illinois. So my 3 C's are very important to me because it helps me guide myself for all types of shoot, whether it's a headshot shoot, a portrait shoot, fashion shoot, whatever it may be. These 3 C's help guide me. So that's the great thing about these 3 C's is that it does not discriminate against what style of photography that you do. You can do landscape, you can do real estate, etc. These tips will still apply. So to cut straight to the point, my first C is color. Color or tone is the ability to decide what kind of feeling do you want to evoke for the viewer, depending on the color grading that you decide to use. Do you want to capture a sunset that requires more warm tones? Do you want it to be bright and fun, which may mean that you want to have really saturated colors that are bold? Do I want a nostalgic feeling where maybe I will actually desaturate the colors and maybe fade the blacks and lift it up a little bit? Do I want to use complementary colors to feel more grounded? Do I want to use analogous colors to have that cohesive feeling, smooth feeling, but it still has some boldness to it? Definitely play with color because the way that you combine color, the way that you use it on its own, the way that you can fade it, desaturate it, turn up the vibrancy, etc. It's just so many ways that color can really help evoke the storytelling. So I asked myself this question during the very beginning processes of approving the mood board or making the mood board if I'm making the concept on my own, really understanding what do I need to put together in order to create that feeling. And so if I know, I usually lead with the feeling and then let the colors choose what would evoke that feeling for me. And so my very next C is really impactful, and it's probably one of the most important things you can do as a photographer, which is your composition. What angle am I capturing my subject? What things in this environment can help us capture the essence of the shoot better? What things in this environment can help draw our eyes to a particular part of the image that can really help capture that storyline? Things such as leading lines are really great to kind of guide your eyes. So a lot of these principles with composition can really help build the story and build up the drama or lack of drama, depending on your concept that you're trying to show to the audience. Do I want to go lower, make her feel empowered? Do I want to go higher and make her feel innocent? These are some variations of things that you can do for composition change. And in my latest video, I talk about 3 tips that really help me with my portrait photography. So definitely check that out because it helps put these 3 C's into perspective. Other things to consider are all the limbs in the shot. Let me make sure my highlights and my shadows are at the exposure level that I want in order to tell the story. Just consider everything when it comes to what fills the frame and does it have an intention placed into the frame. And the next C, which I promise is the most underrated C out of the last 2, if you're not quite sure what culling means, essentially it's going through your photos and selecting the ones that you want to use for your final images. Take this part of the process very seriously. Don't just look at the small details like, oh, that part's blurry, or this is in frame and I didn't want that to be in frame. This shot shows my living room walls. All of that could be done in post-processing, so I don't want you to worry too much about that. And if you want videos about retouching and how I do things in Photoshop and Lightroom, definitely let me know down below because I have a ton of knowledge on those 2 platforms. Things to really consider when doing the culling process: look at the emotion that's coming off of the subject. If you're using a human subject, is the look on his or her face matching what you're trying to tell in terms of the storyline? If she's smiling but you really want a somber mood, why would you choose that photo? You know what I mean? And it's okay if you have images that you choose that doesn't follow the last C in terms of correct composition. The only correct answer is the one that tells the story. And you're gonna hear me say that a ton throughout my channel, because that's the main principle of me being here giving you guidance as a photographer to another photographer. Is I don't want you to take the things that I say and other photographers say on YouTube and think that is what it is. And just don't forget, every shoot has a story. Even if you do landscape photography, story. Even if you do catalog photos for a retail store, there's a story. It might just be a white backdrop and the model just posing smiling with the clothes on, but that's the story. She's happy to be in these clothes. So you wouldn't want to have a black backdrop and her with a sad expression, right? So every shoot has a story. So that's pretty much it. Keep in mind those 3 C's: color, composition, and culling, and I promise you, you will have a beautiful workflow to remind you of what's important during the shoot to tell your story. You want to make sure that your coloring is up to par with your vision. You want to make sure that the way you capture your subject is up to par for your vision. And you want to make sure that when you're culling through your photos, you're choosing the photos that can tell the story about what you were planning from the beginning. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos. I talk about photography gear, behind the scenes of some of my fashion photo shoots and portrait shoots. Tons of content is coming on its way, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.